Hi, welcome to another edition of Legal Quilts. Today we're going to be sewing the ocean temperature, surface temperature quilt top together. You've sewn all your sections. Remember, we're doing this on 10 sections. However sections you decided to do it is fine. Lay it out either on the floor or design wall or stack them up in order from 10 to 1 on the top. Okay, then you're going to take one, which looked like this, starting there, and you know where your left is, your top left is, because you've got the label there. Okay, you're going to take section 1 and lay it down, and then you're going to take section 2 and just flip it over, and you're going to remove the label from section 2 so you don't have that anymore. Okay, you're not going to keep that one on there. What you're going to do then is just line up your corners. Line up your corner. Okay. And sew. Whoops, don't get your fabric all knotted up together because you don't want to sew it down in there. Okay, just line them up on your edges here. Line up your edges, and using your 1/4 inch seam allowance, line up your top, line up your edges, and just sew down it. Okay. Oops, there we go. And then we're just going to sew. It's a nice straight line all the way down. And you leave your one label on there so that you always know where the top left is. Okay? And you're just going to sew this down. Just using your 1/4 inch seam allowance, straight down, just a straight stitch. Always making sure your edges are matched up right so you don't get wavy lines. I mean, it's ocean, but we still don't want wavy lines. Okay, and you just keep going. Let's see, come up with other things to talk about while we're doing this. If you've pressed your joins where your strips join up, if you've pressed your seams, especially where you made the long strips, just lay them down. Make sure. The good point of this is we shouldn't have too much. The way this is done, you shouldn't have too much overlap of lines where you had the joins of the strips. So it should go pretty smoothly without a lot of bulk to worry about. One thing I found while I was making the sections is if you sew these, if you sew them up just as you were cutting the strips and sewing the sections, if you saw you were going to have a line, since we're working with solids and not directional prints and it didn't really matter, I just flipped end for end. So if it looked like two were going to be next to each other here, close to each other, but if I flipped them, it would like be at this end. I just turned the strip around. And I think that took care of the problem. And I'm hoping I found a good angle where you can actually see the sewing. You can see what I'm sewing. I think I finally found a good angle. I don't know how well that's going to work on bigger projects, but at least for this you can see what I'm doing, hopefully. Which again, it's just a straight line. One thing I love about quilting is it's a lot of just sewing straight lines. Yes, there's curved pieces. Don't get me wrong. There's curves and everything, and Y seams. But in general, you're just sewing straight lines. And that makes it a lot easier. Even when you're putting pieces together, even if like you're sewing diamonds, it's still a straight line until you get to the point. But it's a straight line down that side. There's not a lot of fancy things. Now, like I said, there's curves. If you do a drunkard's path, there's curves. But in general, all you're doing is sewing straight ones. Also, I discovered as I was cutting on my sections I was a little off on some of my fabric requirements, so I'm going to go back and correct this. And when this is all done, I'm going to put all the directions into one document, one PDF. And what we're going to, I just want to cut some of these string. You know, as you're going along and you see threads sticking out, clip them so that they're not in your way. That's what I'm going to do right now. But going back to this, it's going to be a pattern. I'm going to put the directions, you know, with all the fabric requirements and everything I've done here, you know, everything I've talked about and what I've posted on the Ko-fi page. And that's going to be a pattern for free. I thought I had enough, but I ran out of thread. So I'm going to have to, I ran out of bobbin. I lost chicken bobbin. I hate when that happens. So anyway, just sew 1 to 2, you know, 2 to 1, and do that all the way down. Remember, we've got 10, so you're going to sew 4 to 3, 6 to 5, 8 to 7, 9 to 10, okay? And leave the label on the uneven numbered ones, all right? And then after I rewind my bobbin, we will be back to see how to continue sewing. All right, you've sewed all your sections together into groups of 2, okay? Now see how this sticks out here? Okay, you might have noticed too that you had an uneven edge because we were self-measuring, because we don't have 62-inch strips. So you might see how you've got this uneven edge. As you're going along, even it up, because it'll be a lot easier than doing the whole quilt. Okay, how do you do that? Simple. Just take your ruler, lay it on, I think I'm flipped around. There we go. Flip my fabric around. I was doing it for the right-handed people. Then when I was teaching a class that, wow, trying to teach somebody right-handed and to cut fabric, I had to stop and think for a minute because I couldn't just, it was like, oh no, you're cutting this way, not that way. So just take your straight edge, see where this one's lower than the other one? You're going to want to lay your fabric on the lowest piece, okay? Line that up on an edge on your cutting mat so that you can get it straight. I've got mine on my 21-inch line, okay? And so make sure that's on there. Make sure that piece is right on the 21-inch line. And your ruler's all lined up, okay? Keeps moving because the weight of it. Remember, I always talk about the weight. Weight's pulling it out, so I don't want that. So again, line it up on your 21. Put it a little over to be on the safe side. And make sure your bottom ruler is lined up on the 21. And just cut. And there you go. Okay, do that for every section as you go along. Okay, now we have our 10 sections sewn into 5. And yes, we're stuck with an uneven number, and I hate that. But here's how we're going to do it. You're going to take sections 1, 3, and 5. And I'm going to be talking by their label here. Whoops, I'll switch it around, okay? I'm going to be talking by their label number now so that you know which sections. But basically, the first, second, and third groups of 2 that you sew together, that's going to be the top half. And then the bottom half is going to be 7 and 9. The last 2 are going to be the smaller one. Now, why don't we just sew all the sections together at once? Or, you know, sew all this, you know, why didn't you just sew the 51 strips at once? Why'd you sew them into 2 and then this? Again, it's a weight thing. You don't want this quilt, as you're sewing along, it's going to pull, and you don't want that. You're going to have a little bit on the top, and then you're going to be all the way over here, and you don't want it to pull, and then you get wavy seams. So you want to work with, yeah, I just flipped the fabric in your face. So you want to work with smaller sections going into bigger so that you kind of keep everything somewhat even. I'll admit when I did my 9 and 10, I forgot section 10 was actually 6 pieces. I should have flipped that the other way, so that the number 10 section with 6 strips was on the bottom. But 5, 6, you're not too off with weight wise. So again, even though this is going to be 3 and 2, you're not going to be off that much weight wise that it's really going to matter. Although when we're getting into 2 of these sections, you do want to be a little more careful. So again, remove the 3. You're going to remove the 3 and the 5 and the 9 labels. All right, you're always going to keep that 1 label on. And same thing, flip. Oops, I flipped that the wrong way. You're going to flip section 3 over onto section 1, and then let me move the camera. See our Christmas tree? See, Christmas. So that you can see this. And then you're just going to sew that section like we did before. Just straight sewing. Get around. You're just going to straight sew it like we did before. And again, at the end of the section, take the time. Oops, that was folded over. Line up your edges just like before. Line up your corner there. And again, at the end, when you're done sewing this, you're going to even up your edge. And do that for all the sections. Like I said, to this you're going to sew section 5, then you're going to sew the last 2 sections to each other. All right? I'm just going to sew here. All right, and while I'm sewing, I'm going to talk to you about the pattern again. Like I said, I'm going to have this pattern on my website for free. All right? It's going to have everything, the directions, the color chart, everything. And it's all going to be free. It's going to be a PDF. But you're going to have to, although it's going to take me a minute before it gets up there, okay? And what you're going to have to do is I'll have to get an email. I won't collect it. I won't save it. You know, it's use it and forget it. I'm not going to be sending out newsletters or anything, but you'll input an email. I'll email it to you, and then I will forget your email ever exists. I'm not doing this to gather emails or anything. It's just, as far as I can tell, that is the easiest way, because I'm not sure my website is set up to do automatic downloads. So I'm going to have to do it that way. But again, I reassure you, use a throwaway email. I don't care. Again, the email is just so that you, there we go, so that you can, so that I can send you the free pattern. And it's going to be a free pattern. All right? Because the Tempestry quilt people, they sell the yarn, and I think they sell other patterns, but not the files to do this. So I don't want to mess with what they do by charging for it. And I just think it's a good cause. The Tempestry website is going to be in the show notes, so you can go and visit them. They have much more, obviously, than this. They even tell you if you want to do a Tempestry quilt for your own use, for your area, how to get those temperatures and stuff. It's actually not that hard. I've done it for several places. So finding, and the hard part is establishing the colors, of course, comparing them to the yarns, because they don't have fabric colors on there. But nobody said you had to use their fabric colors. You can come up with your own scale, as long as you're consistent. I did try to match the fabric colors to their scale, just because, again, I don't want to mess with what they're doing. I think they do a great job. I think they're wonderful, and I think it would be, and it's just easier to compare one-to-one. Okay? So then, go along. Let's see. Yep. someday I'm going to learn how you do the speeded up part, where you film and then somehow you speed it up so y'all don't have to watch me doing this. And I just keep talking. All right, and since you didn't get to see it last time, that's what it looks like when you finish it. Now you see the edge is off a little bit there, so I'm going to even that up. So this is section 1 and 3. You're going to add 5 here on the bottom, then set that aside and sew 7 and 9 together. All right, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now you've sewn. You've got 2, which is 7 and 9, and you've got 1, 3, and 5, or sections 1 through 6 and 7 through 10, okay? And you're just about done. You just flip the section of 2, the bottom section where all the reds are, over onto the top section that is sections 1 through 6, or as I call it, 1, 3, 5, whatever, the one that's 3 sewn together. I've got a stray thread there, and you just flip it over and you sew it. Okay, so we're going to put those 2 colors together. I'm just going to sew it. Okay, yes, I'm working with a lot of fabric, so you're going to be pulling and, you know, straightening it out so that it's not so heavy. All right, and again, you just match your corners. Pull your corners together. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Cleaning up is going to be fun today because I have all these little papers to get rid of and put my clips away. All right. And then again, just sew it using your 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right. This is the last one. All right. Let's talk. All right. By the way, I'm trying to come up with ideas for the new year, so if there's a technique you want to see that I haven't covered or that I have covered and you'd like me to cover again, maybe better, where you can actually see the sewing. See, I'm getting this better where you can see the sewing. Let me know in the show notes, in the comments, and I will do my best to accommodate you. You don't have to follow the theme. It doesn't have to be work in progress winter or scrap summer. Just if there's something you want to do, let me know, and I will do my best. And again, there's going to be a lot of pulling, so you want to make sure you keep your edges lined up. It's a little warm sometimes to do this, especially like in summer, but not so much in winter, even if you're inside. Pile it up in your lap so that your lap, there's less weight pulling down from your needle, from where your needle is to the end of the row. Do whatever you can. That's again why I have this extension table, is because it takes up more of the weight of the quilt, so it's again not pulling down suddenly here. There's very little laying off, so that again it doesn't pull and act funky. Okay, so again, all right. And you're just going to keep moving, just keep sewing it down, keeping that allowance, also keeping track of where everything is. You don't want this to be pulling either, pulling it out. There we go. And just take it slow. You want your lines, your seams to look as straight as possible. Nobody's perfect. If they waver a little bit, that's okay. But you don't want to get it too close to the edge because then your stitches will pull out. You want to be careful and get it as close as you can to a straight line because you want it to look as good as possible. Again, no quilt police, but for your own satisfaction, you don't want it like pulling and having a nice straight line ruined because your stitching got off by too much. Or worse, having to go back and rip it out and go do it again. Just keep going. Alright. Keep going. Whew, there we go. Again, that's why you have the smaller one on top, because it pulls less. And your heavier one is really controlled by being on the machine, on the table, whereas the top one's a little more free floating. So if you have it too heavy, it's gonna pull away. That's what's happening to me here. So that's why I keep adjusting it so it doesn't pull away. And I'm sure you're hearing the sewing machine because I tend to lean over and get really close to my machine, which is probably bad for my posture, but I do it anyway. I haven't trained myself out of it yet. I need to just sit up straight and trust my machine. Okay. All right. If you've been evening up your edges as you go along, you shouldn't have too much to even up at the end. Although, yeah, when I sewed my section 5 to my section 3, ooh-wee, I don't know what I was measuring there. That might have been where I changed how I measured things. But we weren't doing 60-inch solid. You had to, measure 30, then 15, then 17, or 30, and what do you think? 30, 20, 12. Maybe 62 inches wasn't a good choice. But if I did this right, I think it's going to come out a good lap quilt size. All right? And we will see in a minute. Of course, you saw the picture at the beginning of how it all looked, all sewn together and laid out. Oops, I am going to have to trim that. Okay, all right. There we go. Again, pulling all over the place. All right. Top all sewn together. All right, and yes, I'm going to have to even this up down here, but that's okay. It's just this one section, and I'll even it up. So that's the top, and you can finally remove the one because you're all done with that finally, and that's your quilt. You can see the full picture over there. It's a little hard to get it on camera, but you'll see you saw the picture at the beginning. I'm not going to do a border on this because I think it's just the size I want. You can put a border on if you want, but keep in mind the point of the quilt is the stripes, these things, especially right about here where all of a sudden it goes woohoo, really got warm. So don't have a border that's really distracting from the purpose of the quilt. I will put how to do borders in the show notes. I'm not going to show you how to do it again because there's only so much you can do. If you do need more information, there's lots of other videos out there. Please go look at them. Support, it's always nice to see what other people are doing. But that's it for this one. The next time we work on this, we're going to be quilting it. So I'm also going to put in how to sandwich the quilt. Again, you don't need to see me doing that again. And again. There's plenty of other videos out there, so I'll put that in the show notes too, how to do that. Next time we're going to be quilting, I've come up with a really cute quilt motif that I think you'll like, that goes along with the purpose of this quilt. That'll be in January. This is it for 2023. I'm not going to be shooting another one this month, even though technically I would. So I've got so many other things I've got to work on. I've got quilts that I've got to finish. I'm teaching class. I got to finish the exemplar quilt for it. So there's a lot going on. I just want to get that stuff done and relax as much as I can for the end of the year. So you'll see me in January. So don't forget to like, share, comment. I'm only 76 away from 500 subscribers. I would love to get that. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do. If you have subscribed, grab a friend and have them subscribe. Every little bit helps. Visit my website. It's a little late to get anything for Christmas now, guaranteed, but birthdays are always coming up. There's always stuff on the website. Go check that out. If you just want to support me, allow me to do more videos, do more quilting, there's the Ko-fi website. All of those links are in the show notes. So that's it. So Merry Christmas, Happy belated Hanukkah, and Happy New Year.